Everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a gigantic 15-game slate here on DraftKings. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? Make sure to check out Discord. We got NBA news in here that will update throughout the day. Keep you updated with that. I even put out the injury report here today as well to start the day. With that said, thank you guys for doing all that, and thank you guys that are in Discord. Shout out to you all. With that said, let's get into this slate itself. For the injury report, let's go ahead and do that. First of all, we have the Wizards have Beal is questionable. For the Hornets, Smith Jr. is questionable. For the Rockets, Fernando and Tate are both out. Green and Jabari Smith are both probable. For the Magic, Cole Anthony is out. For the Thunder, Pokusevski is out. For the Pacers, Duarte is out. For the Suns, Cam Johnson is out, and Cam Payne is questionable. For the 76ers, Harden is out, and Embiid is questionable. For the Bucks, Giannis is probable. For the Hawks, Young is questionable. For the Blazers, Lillard is questionable, Hart is probable, Winslow is probable, and Simmons is doubtful. For the Heat, Hero is questionable. For the Raptors, Siakam is out. For the Bulls, Levine is probable, White is questionable, and Drummond is out. For the Grizzlies, Adams is questionable. For the Knicks, Robinson's out, as well as Grimes being questionable. For the Wolves, Gobert is out. For the Spurs, Collins is questionable. For the Nets, Simmons is questionable, and Kyrie is out. For the Lakers, Beverly is out. For the Jazz, Conley and Vanderbilt are both questionable. And for the Clippers, Wall, Leonard, and Kennard are all out, and Jackson is questionable. Lots of injuries today. Thankfully, most of the injuries we actually already know pretty good about what's going to happen there. But there's definitely a few in there that are going to be probably irritating because of the late slate and stuff like that, late slate games and stuff like that. But overall, it's pretty wild slate. Obviously, I could list off a million players just based on the sheer volume of games. I'm going to try to limit it down pretty as much as I can here. We've got about 10 guards, 7 small forwards, and then a few centers. So let's go ahead and get into those. So we're going to start with DeAnthony Melton. Now his price has come up some for Philadelphia, but he is going to be the starting guard alongside Maxey with Harden out. And if Embiid didn't play, that would actually boost him a little bit more. Now this is a tough matchup against Phoenix. Phoenix tends to do really good against everybody, so especially defensively. So I don't think he's a top option today because the price points come up, but he's still a good option in general just because the price is too cheap for what his potential is. I'm just not sure he's going to be able to do it today, but he does factor pretty well regardless because of his price. Then we're going to look at Colin Sexton for Utah. Now I played him yesterday actually. He did really solid. His minutes have increased lately, and I expect that to continue. He's just a really good price. He's a little bit too cheap for what he's been doing. And there might be Conley may be out too, which would actually boost him quite a bit as well. He's already a good play. He's one of the top plays even with Conley playing, but he's even better with Conley likely, or at least questionable at this point. Then we're going to look at Darius Garland for Cleveland. Now he's playing against the Clippers, and he's been pretty solid in the couple games he's actually played. He's been getting a decent chunk of shots in those games. In 2 games, playing 42 and 39 minutes, he scored 62 and 38 fantasy points. So he's a really good spot here and a good price for that potential. Then we're going to look at Scotty Barnes for Toronto. Now this is a back-to-back, so that is a little bit of a concern. But his price is just way too cheap for what he's been doing, especially considering the fact Siakam is out, so he's getting more shots and more upside as a result. Then we're going to look at Tyrese Halliburton. He's one of my favorite plays today. He's been extremely good this season. He's had a couple games off, but most of these games he's been extremely good, and his price point is just too cheap for what he's been doing. He's one of my plays of the day, along with Sexton. I meant to put him in here. So he's been, he's the number one option for Indiana, obviously, and as they've had some injuries, he's even having to do more. Then we're going to look at Terry Rozier. Terry Rozier has been playing really good in the couple games he's played. He's very similar to Garland's situation where he hasn't played very many games, but in the games he has played, he's been absolutely dominating, and he's been better than his price in all those. And that's just the same here. His price point's a little bit cheaper than it was the other day against Brooklyn, but he's in a good spot here against Washington, who he should be able to do quite well against. And in 3 games, as you can see, he's 5x basically at the price point he's at today, in each of them. So I do like him as a good option here. Then we're going to look at Jordan Clarkson. Now, Clarkson's dependent on Conley playing more, but he's still a decent option at this price. He's been playing pretty well, but I do like him more if Conley is out. Then we're going to look at Klay Thompson. Klay is in a great spot here. But we do have to check closer to the tip to make sure that he's going to play a full complement of minutes. That's kind of the risk with him this season so far, is that he's going to sometimes sit out and sometimes not play a full complement of minutes. So we do have to take a look at that. But overall, his price point is still pretty good, and if he does look to play 30-plus minutes, he'd be a good spot on this slate. Shai Alexander is another good option here for Oklahoma City. He's been extremely good this season. His price point's not going to stay under 10,000 for much longer. In fact, the last game it was almost 10,000, but it's come down a little bit because he didn't play as well against Milwaukee, but I mean, most teams don't play that great against Milwaukee, so he's got a nice, easier opponent today against Detroit. I look for him to bounce back and have a great game. He's the focal point of their offense, and so he's in a great spot. Fred VanVleet, he played really good yesterday against Chicago, and I look for him to do it again. His price point actually is the same as it was yesterday, and honestly, it's a little bit too cheap with his production since with Siakam out, he looks like he's in a really good spot. I do like his price point, and so he's a good option on the slate. And then finally, last but not least, Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield has been playing pretty good so far this season. His minutes have ramped up the last 5 or 6 games, and in fact, I don't think he's only had 2 games that he's been below the 5x line for this price today, and that was the second and third game of the season. And his minutes have increased game to game. The only real risk here is that he's doing a lot of this based on his shooting, and he's hitting lots of threes. And he doesn't get as many peripheral stats sometimes, but he has a tendency to kind of go up and down on that. So he does have some upside here, but he isn't perfectly great simply because sometimes the peripheral stats lack. Then we're going to look at forwards. We got Kyle Anderson here from Minnesota. Now, he's a good value play on this particular slate, but I don't think he's a great one. Like, he had a really good game last time he started for Gobert, but he is still a little bit risky. This matchup's a little bit tougher than the past one, and he's only started 1 game so far this season. Then we're going to look at Chris Boucher. For Toronto, he's in a good spot here. With Siakam out, he should play more minutes, though yesterday he did nearly 5x, but he wasn't nearly as good as we hoped yesterday. But again, it's a back-to-back, so he may end up playing more today, and look for him to be a good option on this particular slate. OG Anunoby, his price point is just too cheap for his production here. He's been extremely good. Even before Siakam got hurt, he was pretty close to 5xing at the price point he is today. But now he's got more upside, and he's going to get a lot more shots as a result. You can see in these last couple games, he's had 19 and 21 shots. I look for that to continue because it's just a great matchup for him. He's another guy that I think is a core play today, at least at this point in the day. And then Troy Brown Jr. for the Lakers. He should be starting again, and if he does end up starting, he's going to be a guy that could potentially be a good play. He's been pretty good coming off the bench already. And the last game where he did start, I don't even know if he started against Cleveland, but in last game with Beverly out, he actually played and got more shots. But he does need to get some more peripheral stats to really help this pay off here. But overall, his price is super cheap and a good value play on this particular slate. At center, we have Hartenstein for the Knicks. Now, he's another top-tier play to me. His price point has come up quite a bit at $5,200, but it's still too cheap for the potential here. He's been playing really well throughout the season and less than stellar minutes, but now he's going to be the starter and he's going to get more minutes. He should be able to get a double-double in most games, and he does get some blocks, which is very helpful as well. And so I do like him here. He's an energy guy, and he's one of my top plays on the slate at center. Miles Turner is another guy I like here. Now, he's been inconsistent, but his price point is still pretty good, and if he can get a full complement of minutes whether he gets hurt or foul trouble or whatever, then he'll be a great play on this particular slate. Same kind of goes for DeAndre Ayton. His price is just too cheap for what he's been doing so far this season. The only catch is in in 2 of the last 3 games he played at 16 and 8 minutes, and that's gonna make it difficult to roster him, obviously. But when he plays 30 plus minutes, he'll 5x super easy at this price point. So it's just a matter of him getting through the game successfully. Then we got to look at Mason Plumlee for the Charlotte Hornets. He's been pretty consistent so far. Even with Nick Richards kind of chomping at the bit, playing well behind him, he's still playing well, and I do like him on the slate. And then Precious Achiuwa, he's another guy for Toronto that he should get more minutes today than he did yesterday. I think it was just the way the game went mostly, and he had some early fouls, but he has been pretty solid this season coming off the bench. And honestly, I don't think that Koloko is going to have a big game again. And if that's the case, then he's going to get a lot more minutes as a result. And so I think he's a good play at $4,200. With that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. You can see the core plays here on my sheet here. Halliburton, Sexton, OG Anunoby, and Hartenstein. Obviously, this may change throughout the day. But we have a pretty good slate here, despite the fact that pretty much everybody's playing. There's some good value plays, good guys that are a little bit too cheap for what they do. And so that's what I've tried to find today and list out. With that said, thank you guys again for liking, commenting, subscribing, and have a nice day, guys.